December 27th, 2020. And here we are on Sundance Lake, Sundance Golf Course, Buckeye, Arizona. And I've made a lot of videos about the challenges I've had with my lots over the years. And this is just an update. I've done quite a bit of work since my last video, and I'm just trying to record for myself in the future. Okay, about 17 years ago, I put my money down. Well, it was 2003. In December of 2003, I ordered that house. Put my name on the contract on the 7th of December 2003. 17 years ago. And then 2 months later, I committed to buying that house and that house. I think because the first two pads that were laid were this pad and that pad, and those were the first two lots sold in parcel 12. Parcel 12 is 13 acres. It has about 63 houses. But at the time that I put my name on the contract for this house, there was nothing on parcel 12. Not one house. Not even a pad. And so on December 7th, I signed a contract for that. And around February or March, I got the go-ahead from the mortgage company here at Sundance, or Merida's Mortgage Company. They authorized me to buy these two. Okay. And because of the way the neighborhood was set up on paper and visually, at the time I bought, I was convinced that I was going to have a cart path from this tee box up to my neighborhood for access easement, because it showed up on every map. It showed up everywhere. It showed up on the map. It's on the plat map. It was everywhere. They even had a path going up to it. So on the day I signed the paper with the intent that I'm buying a first-class seat on this lake. It's a first-class seat. It's a premium lot, a $25,000 lot. And the reason I'm buying it right here is because, to me, that cart path down to the golf course was going to be my first-class lab. One seat away, one house away. That brown house was going to be one house away from the cart path, the first-class lab. I planned on playing a lot of golf here. I was going to buy a golf cart and play a lot of golf here, and I was tickled. And for a year leading up until I closed the houses while all three were being built, any guests that knew that I had bought up here somewhere, they would go, "Where's your houses?" or "Where's your lots?" And I would show them, and they'd go, "Oh man, you're right here where the cart path is. You're right here." But that never played out. A year later, when I finally closed all three houses, or a little less than a year later, that cart path was forever and ever closed. It was filled with trees and shrubs. It wasn't a drain. It wasn't an access easement or anything like that. Well, along with closing that, when they closed that, it's also a drain. So they closed the drain. Now, the rock I'm pushing uphill is, well, I'll start here because I have the light behind me. And I'm going to try to update you. We got a lot of shadow on this stuff. I don't know if it'll show up. But this mess right here, and it's a mess, I'll admit it, is me trying to get the water off my lot. Now, I don't like putting my camera on my neighbor's house. It's like invasive, it's Big Brother, but I'm only doing this for illustration. And I hope by the time that you hear this or look at this presentation that I have spliced in or edited the video where you've seen 2 or 3 episodes of what happens when it rains in front of that patio. Okay? Where that bush is right there is higher than the patio. Everything is uphill. That uphill berm or that relief or whatever you want to call it is so subtle. It's so subtle it fools the eye. It isn't until it rains. It isn't until it rains that you understand the difference in elevation, because when it rains, before I did all this work, I've done thousands of dollars of excavation and thousands of hours of work moving rock around trying to get this lot to drain properly. And the reason it, both of them, if you look at the last house over there, I'm looking into the sun, but where you see that row of trees, just beyond that row of trees, and that house right there, the second house, from that house to the golf course is all uphill. From this patio right here where you see the 2 Adirondack chairs, until I did the excavation and paid a contractor $3,000 to take 100 yards of dirt off these lots, everything was uphill. Now, that's what I'm dealing with here. As you can see, this lot is all tore up. This is 5 or 6 years of work that I've done trying to get the water on my lot to shed onto the golf course where it belongs. Well, at the time of... Now, you see that row of rocks? I want to talk about this property line. This row of houses is platted on the map. It's on the tax map. It's on the plat map. Okay? It goes all the way to Sundance Parkway. Okay? This is no man's land up here. This line right here, for the most part, when you look at the plans, the master document as built, the as-built plans, at every property intersection where two properties come together with the golf course, this line is high all the way from Sundance Parkway all the way down there past the tree. It was made high when they graded these lots years ago to protect the golf course. Okay, the highest and best use of this golf course years ago when it came off the drawing boards, it was a civic responsibility of the golf course to be drain relief for all the neighborhoods that it bordered. That was the civic responsibility, that was the intent. The highest and best use of this golf course, first, highest and best use was a civic responsibility to provide drain relief for every one of these lots up here. But when they started grading out here 18, 20 years ago, the thought of this golf course giving drain relief to these lots was a foreign. It was just, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to make every lot its own little retention basin. And when I came along with $30,000 upfront money in cash, and they had it, and it had gone through their banking system to where they were never going to give it back to me, they went downtown with the plans and lowered that house 3 inches. And I have proof, and the reason I have a footprint, and I want to get honor, and I want to give kudos, and I want to express there are honest people in Arizona. Okay? The people who lay pads. That journeyman group of contractors that lays pads is why I have proof that that house was lowered. And this is why I've been kicked out of the HOA because they know I have proof. They can't allow me to come in and have, and it's like, if you want to prove this, go get a lawyer. Anything you have to say, we're not going to listen to you. And anything you put on paper, if you send us a video, we don't have time to watch the video, and anything you send us on paper, we're going to pick apart as saying it's undiscernible. We can't figure out what you're trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is, when they built this, they lowered that house 3 inches. They put a permanent cloud on that title. I've got a lien against this house. When the lawyers send me the letter and the HOA sends me a letter saying we're going to lien your house, I've already got a lien against the house. When I pay my water and sewer bill, I'm getting screwed every month. I'm paying full price for water and sewer. My sewer pipes are out of compliance with the master plan because the city couldn't get the guy. They couldn't get the people who laid a pad to do it illegally. The people who laid a pad said, whatever's on the permit is what we're laying. That's it. Whatever's on the permit is the elevation we're going to lay it at. So they had to go get a permit that was outside of the master plan. And I have proof. I have the master plan documents and I have the permit. And they don't agree. And they don't agree by 3 inches. That if you take a water level or a laser level or any kind of level, from that house to that house, there's a 3-inch difference. And there's supposed to be no difference. This house, that house, and the third house, plus the other 3 on the other side of the easement are supposed to be all the same finished floor elevation. Not only did they drop that and destroy, put a lien on my sewage pipes because the pump that pumps sewage to the street is a gravity-fed pump. These porch pirates out here 18 years ago stole 3 inches of gravity off my sewer pump. Instead of being a 12-volt battery, it's a 9-volt battery. If you figure every inch equals a volt of power to take that sewage to the street, I don't have a 12-volt battery pushing the sewage to the street. I got a 9-volt battery. Until you get that through your head. Now, that's why I got to do all this work here. To get over here, thanks for listening to this part. But right now, all this digging and excavation, and I got a lot of work, is for a leach line. What happens, I have a video about I made about 3 years ago where I stripped all the rock around from the side of my house on the right 5 feet. The property line is 5 feet. That's another thing. When the HOA comes by and they see vegetation where the property hasn't been trimmed and they haven't weeded or they haven't put down any anything, the people who are riding around writing up people, they don't have a map of the property lines. If they would have had a map of the property lines, the day that they wrote up my yard for having weeds, they wouldn't have wrote up my yard because I don't have a weed on it. You see that bush out there, about the corner of that bush, the left-hand corner is the property line. Okay? And it's all covered with plastic. I covered it 2 years ago with plastic. No weeds growing there. So when I get a letter telling me my yard's filled with weeds, I got a little upset. I know there's no weeds. I got plastic down to keep the weeds. All the weeds are over in this yard. But when the person who doesn't have a map of the property lines, when they sit here and they see something they don't like weeds, they assume that the property line runs down through the middle of the 2 houses. It doesn't. And I'm going to give you another example of that right now over here in this property line. Okay? Please, when you get your henchmen, your Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, whoever these kids are that want to come through and write up everything that they don't like or they don't see, I'm going to tell you another thing. You see these 2 houses here? The property line runs right through the end of that last box. That air conditioning system on the right, the property line is just to the left of that air conditioning system on the right. That's the property line. But out on the street, if somebody goes out on the street and they see weeds on my property, right? If I were to let the weeds grow on my property up to that air conditioning unit, whenever anybody come by and they wrote it up, they're going to write up both houses. That's what they do. They write up both houses. They send both houses a letter without checking to see where's the property line. Now, like me, I've put down plastic everywhere, landscape fabric. I don't have weeds. And when you send me a letter saying I got weeds, and I call you and you go, well, look at the picture. I go, did you see it? Yeah. Well, where are they? Look at the picture. That's the answer you get. Very rude. I'm in the way out here. Now, getting back to this mess. And like I said, I hope I've spliced in before you see this. That house right there doesn't have gutters. I put gutters on the house. You see that? Gutters. Downspouts. Those downspouts go to a 3-inch pipe that runs all the way out to here. Okay? The last storm we had, I had a river running from the pipe here onto the golf course where it's supposed to. Drain relief. Same thing with that pipe over there. Here's another one. Alright? I'm using the golf course for what it's intended to do. Drain relief for my lot. I've gotten rid of the berm. I had to pay somebody $3,000 with a end loader. He filled up like 2 dump trucks with dirt from these lots so that I could get rid of the berm that was running from that plant all the way to my neighbor's plant the other way to keep water on this lot. Every time we had a rainstorm, I had water on this lot. Lakes trapped. Now, from this vantage point right here, you're going to see you saw in the films that as the intensity of the storm got more and more intense, the lake got bigger and bigger and bigger there in front of the lot. I want to remind you, that water was there forever. That's not detention. There's no runoff. It's uphill all the way from the patio to that plant. If I had a water level or laser level, I could show you it's probably an inch and a half maybe uphill. Enough to keep the water hugging. As you watch the water coming off this eave, it hugs the patio. Why does it hug the patio and not go anywhere? Because it's all uphill. There'll be a lake right there in front of that hose. We'll have a lake that'll run all the way from the air conditioning to the lake that's in front of the patio. Now, here's my dilemma. I've got a berm that was installed here years ago by the builder to keep these lots isolated. And the berm now that was used to be east and west, that used to run right to that plant, all the way across 2 of my lots, I took care of. It's gone. Now, for the board of directors, the attorney general, the mayor of Buckeye, whatever, okay? And especially the board. I intend to take up all this rock. And I'm going to be working on this all summer long. I want to sell the houses. I don't want to live here anymore. Okay? I've had enough of Buckeye. But when I sell this house, I'm required. Ethics, morals, ethics, whatever. I'm required to tell the new owner that he's got faulty sewage pipes. And that I'm required to tell him the history of both track day, how it got out of compliance, the women's tee box, how it's supposed to be a catch basin, and I'm going to tell him that your sewer pipes, and I'm going to give him all the documentation, and I hope he's somebody like Bill Gates or somebody big, somebody with money that's got a lawyer on a retainer. I want to sell these properties to somebody that's got a lawyer on a retainer that says, I'll fix it. Just sell it to me cash as is. And that's the only way I'm selling it. The only way I'm going to sell these houses is cash as is. Because you're taking the same problem I've had for 15 years. Drainage. And you've got suspect sewage pipes. It's built out of compliance. You should be able to go in front of any judge, anywhere, if you have a lawyer, and present the as-built master plans for the community, and then present this illegal building permit that violates the master plans. You should be able to do that if you have a lawyer. I don't want to deal with it. I haven't talked to any lawyer here that I have any respect for in Arizona, because they don't care about civil rights. Okay? There's no civil rights in Arizona. This is Donald Trump's law and order society here. We don't care about your civil rights. Okay? I already know that, so I have to be very careful, but I guarantee you, if somebody comes in here with a good lawyer, I have all the paperwork. I have all the proof. You could get this house condemned. I don't have those deep pockets. I didn't expect to have a lawyer to come in and buy these houses. Okay? I've been here 15 years. I paid all the dues. I paid all the fines. I paid everything. I've supported the community. The community hasn't supported me. I've had a character assassination done on me by the HOA in the town of Buckeye. For the sake of the cash register of the golf course. About the most simplistic way to put it. And a few old goat neighbors I have that wanted to do a land grab out here 17 years ago. But we'll stop here. We'll stop here. But that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to spend the rest of the day trying to dig this out. I spent yesterday just digging out this little bit here, getting all the dirt out of it and then sifting it and stuff like that. And I was wore out. That's heavy work. It's mule work. I shouldn't have to do this at 72 years old. But I do have to do it. Because I want to sell these houses, and I want to sell them confidently and tell everybody that you're not going to have to worry about drainage when a storm hits. But I do have to tell them that your neighbor right here is going to be a sponge. While I've done all this work to keep the water off my lot, this neighbor doesn't have gutters. He's got no way of getting the water to the golf course, and he's happy to sit here and soak all the water up that comes off his roof. He's happy to be a retention basin, and I know what a retention basin is. That's where water goes to die. All the water that comes off that roof right there during the storm, I've done everything I possibly can do to keep the water off my lot, to make it shed water like a duck. And I've got a neighbor next door, and it was built for me. That situation right there with the berm and everything else where they put the retention and the drainage up here on that lot was done for me. And I can't convince anybody to see it. When that water sits under that lot, if we get 4 days of rain, that's 4 days of water underneath that house that's going to be there forever. You know what that does? That drives termites up in a house. About a week later, you're going to see termites hanging from the ceiling because they got out of the ground. Every house has termites in Arizona. What drives them up into the house is when the water gets soaked in improper drainage, and that's what we have here. We don't have it draining on the golf course like it's supposed to. Everything is uphill to the golf course. Thank you for listening.